So this is what happens when I'm starting painting. This is a very important part, and you know, even if we don't even get to the painting part, I think that this is, well, I hope you find it interesting, but I also think that it's very important to, hold on, still a great image. Now we can see, now you can see everything? Okay, good. Wonderful. Okay, so I think it's important to see how one goes about selecting their colors, because it's not necessarily as simple as just looking at it and saying, oh, I know what that'll be. That'll just be purple, so let me just grab a purple off the shelf and I put it down and I just start painting. Because sometimes you have limited palettes. Like this palette doesn't look, where is my camera? This palette doesn't look too limited, right? There's a lot of color in here, but it's not every color. And you can see just from what's right there. There are potentially way more. So 6. I think I brought 6 palettes today. And of these 6 palettes, we have this one down here, which is called Bright Blue Violet, and it's a Schminky. It's 910. I'm going to show you that one. There we go. It's a very deep purple, but for a fig, I don't think that it would be right. I think that this lighter purple is going to work better than this super dark purple. It also has a real blue tone to it. Now the other one would be Brilliant. I should use a different brush. Let me grab my mixing brush. I don't want to use my good brush here. So using the Brilliant Red, which is this one. And they're going to look different when I pick them up, right? So, okay, this is getting a little warmer. That's the Brilliant Red Violet. It's number 940, also Schminky. Most of my colors are Schminky. That is all I have on here for purples. This one and this one. The rest of these are all beautiful reds, and this is all blues. This is the palette I was talking about recently. Yeah, it's true, Pam. By the time I get all my palettes out, there isn't a lot of room left. But I do tend to know what I'm going for, and so I just jump at it right away. So I don't necessarily need all these palettes. But I think that for the sake of teaching, if I didn't know my palettes, then this is what I might do. So I know that this little guy, I designed it to be for earth tones. So it has a blue, a bunch of reds. This is a potter's pink, so it's a really nice, you can see it here. Can you see it? There's a glare. It's a nice soft pink, like an earth tone-y kind of pink. And then you've got your yellows and your browns, and then your blues and a Davies gray. So this is a really good palette for me if I'm going out into the world and I want to take it with me and just paint whatever is going to be in the forest or even in the city. These would be good cityscapes. And greens, I can make my own green using the cadmium yellow and the cerulean blue, and then darkening the green with the indigo or the Payne's gray, or, you know, working that way, or maybe a little bit of raw cyan to go a different direction. So that's a palette I would use for a few things. This one is a little different. Let me pull the plastic up again. That just helps guide the piece of paper back here. Yeah, larger table, Heather, that would be good. And I'm at my brother's house. This is a relatively large desk, but I find the same thing. There's just never, ever enough room. I kind of expand to my room, to the amount of room I've got available. So on this one, this palette was designed for flowers. And I think that kind of seems obvious because there's a lot more greens and a lot more yellows. And then these beautiful reds. Not too many blues. This is like your sky blues, and a green that I would use to make these, a blue that I'd use to make these greens darker, and then a few browns. But overall, this is like the flowers, the florals, the spring kind of palette that I grab. And then the large palette, which I just had, that has my favorite reds, my favorite blues. Look again. Is that something else? Yeah, so it has, at the time, I've got a lot more, but these were my favorite greens. Let's get that in the shot. This one, Let me take the plastic off. Oh, maybe I can't. I'll just pull it. Okay. So where are we? So here we have my favorite greens, favorite reds, favorite blues, and then simple yellows and some simple browns. Natural tint, Payne's gray, and a silver, which is cool. There is a silver in here. I don't normally use it, but it is nice. It will add a little spark to something. So this would be a good, also, if I'm just doing anything, this would be a really good take with me palette because it's big. And with these colors, I can make every color. Every color. But for today, because the only purples I have is this one and this one, like out of the tube, I mean, maybe, is that magenta quadachrome? Yes, it's magenta quadachrome. It's not really a purple at all. It's a very pinky, but if you add a little bit of blue, you could purple it up. And, there's not much purple in there either. So, I mean, here we have the pink, 930 pink. This one plus this could make a little purpley color. So this is where I am, where I'm thinking about colors. Which colors do I want to work with? And the last palette, I think, is this one and this one. Back to the beginning, I think we're going to use those. So they will end up in this range because that looks like a fig to me. So what do you guys think? Yeah, so that's how I would go through it, and I'd make a few more of these if I wasn't sure. I know my colors because let me just close these so they don't slide off. I know my colors. I've had them forever. I filled the palettes. I've done swatches. I've done cards. So it's different. But if I didn't know the colors, if they were new, then it would be very important to me to take the time and do tons of these little guys. So let's center this so you can see that better. If I go this way, that might be the best option because I can't paint halfway across my desk. Okay. So, hope you guys are all warm and snuggly where you are. It's pretty cold today. Not as cold as it's been, but I love the winter. I absolutely love it. And from where I am right now, I'm looking out this window, and there's some lights out there. The world's just really pretty. I'm in the city, so it's not as pretty as at my home, but it's okay. So I'm going to start, see if there's any dust on here, by, now bear with me, I'm doing this upside down, but that's okay. I'm going to start by putting down some water, and we'll just do a wash. Now, I got a comment a few days ago. Yeah. Thanks, Pam. I totally agree. I think they look really good. It would be good if I had I'll come back to the other thought in a second. It would be good if I had a fig here. Normally I like to paint from life. So if I had a fig, I could check the colors exactly. I'm really not into painting from photos. And this is not entirely from my memory. I did come over here. Look, it's telling me I'm doing a live video. That's funny. And where is it? Oh, hold on, here. I did find a picture of some figs just to give me a feeling for what their colors look like. The different ranges. We're not doing that shape. This is just a very standard, the fig sitting in front of us kind of shape. But I wanted to know what kind of colors they are. So this lighter gray, that would work with Payne's gray? No, a Davies gray, which is, where is it? It's in this palette. It's like that dusty top color. This one. So let's check that too, because that's also important. Use my mixing brush. Yeah, I find working from photos a little more, it's frustrating. I don't know. I really like working from life. But here we can see which direction I have to go to find that shot. Oh, way over here. Oh boy. Okay. Need more desk room. And down and over and there we go. Okay. So here's my example. there's the gray. So this is what Davy's gray looks like. It's like a gray, right? But instead of making a gray and watering it down in order to get it that light, the thing that's really neat about Davy's gray is that it's still thick paint, even though you get that light color, but you still get the thick paint feeling. So you can layer it really well. So that's pretty dry. In order to kind of gray this, that would work. And you'd have to let it dry and then reapply and reapply and reapply. And also in some of these spots, I would put less of that color, that purple. And we'd probably have to come back with a darker Payne's gray or indigo or something in order to get some of these darker lines in here. But we'll see where we go and how long this ends up being. I mean, the last one I did was 4 hours long, so I don't know. You guys are more than welcome to come and go and pop in and pop back and jump around. And if you're not watching it live, you can fast forward me. You can fast forward me, and then I'll talk really fast, but I'll paint faster. So that's an easier way to watch me paint if you find that I'm just going too slow. Because obviously, while I get going, I don't know how slow I'm going to be. Because some things just take time. And when I'm doing my tutorials, my normal tutorials, I speed them up a lot. So I want a palette, and little paper towel. These colors are not bad. Maybe I won't take them all away, just the center. Let's drop in some water, soften that. I'm going to activate it by giving it a good wiggle. Put some color here. Another thing is, instead of just dropping the color, if you, this takes a little bit of effort here, make sure you're in the shot. If I kind of, you know what I mean, scrape the brush along the edge, rub the brush along the edge, I can get that extra little bit off my brush before I take this and put it in the water, or take it and bring it over here. Take whatever paint's out. I mean, I'm not super stingy about saving paint because I think you're losing micro amounts. But that being said, I'm also not, you know, totally comfortable with just throwing my paint into my water. And I don't want to be getting up and having to change my water constantly. That's no fun either. So I'm mixing and grabbing some alizarin and crimson. And if you don't have an edge, you can, or what I like to do is just kind of roll the brush, and that will also, like it's a mop brush, like a mop that you're mopping the floor with. If you squish it, you'll get some more of that paint out. Not that you're just coming along like this, but there's tons, right, still in there. So squish that out. Just a little side tip. All right, now leaving these colors just like that. And I don't know if I've made this live, this tutorial or not, but this is called double dipping or double loading your brush. I'm going to pick up some color on one side, pick up some color on the other side, and there's no water in here, but that did not work. Or maybe it did, I just didn't push hard enough. And a little bit of water would be good. So let's say we pick it up here and here. And I'm painting off. Sorry. Okay, so this is double loading your brush, which can be really, really helpful and useful when you're looking for two tones, but you don't want to come back and paint multiple layers. You want them to blend naturally. Sometimes I like to wet the page first. So I don't know how much painting we're going to do, or if this is just going to be a full-blown technique tutorial, but eventually, at some point, I'm going to try to get this painting done. I like all these smiley faces you guys keep doing. It's very cool. didn't tell you how long it takes to get there. How long it takes to get where? Oh, to the floor. Uh-oh. So yeah, let's find some more space. Good. If I put some water down first, so that the colors are going to move. And then now it doesn't have to be obvious, because I think the subtle is the best thing. So on this little one, now I came across, I put the blue down first, right? And then I put the pink down. But way down in here, there's like 3 or 4 tones, and they're really, really subtle. Or here, there's a little redder on the left, on my left, on this side. And on my right, there's a little more blue. So it can be really, really subtle. Or here, how they've just gently mixed. It's not a perfect science, but it is fun. And I do have a full tutorial either out or coming. It might be coming this weekend or next weekend or the weekend after. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I do have a tutorial every Saturday now, at least for the foreseeable future. I went ahead and did them for every Saturday. And if I end up with too many, then I will a few during the week too. Just in case you guys are wondering what's up. So coming back to our tiny fig. Over here. You can see it. Yeah. Okay, and we're going to put some water down. I don't want to put on too much water because it's a very small fig, and if I put too much water everywhere, I'm going to have to wait for it to dry, and we'll be doing a lot of chatting, but I won't be doing a lot of painting. So I'm looking from an edge to see that it's all covered. I'm not really missing too many spots. This part is covered in water, and then there's a few pieces coming up of little fingers, and then I want to just come back and forth. And we're going to tap this in. Going nice and slow in the beginning because you want to make sure that the edges are fine. And this is the Rosemary & Co. triangle brush, and since I'm talking about it in so many tutorials, you'd think that I had taken the time to figure out what kind of brushes they are. Yeah, I haven't. But if you want to know, I'm not sure if it's Klinsky or not, but I will look it up. I will be doing another review of this brush at some point, so I'm sure the information will be there. And guys, if I get quiet, I apologize. Oh, it's nice to see you, Heather. I'm sorry you have to leave. Do enjoy your sleep, and don't worry, you can always watch the replay. I'm really recording, I'm recording this for you guys because you're here watching it right now, and that's so cool, but I'm also recording it for future. So don't worry, you have to come and go. It's okay, because I'll leave this on the channel. And we're going to do some rotating, and I have to close all this because, oh my goodness, there's no space left. Let's close some of these little palettes with that. Incredible how quickly the space just swallowed up. Alright. So this is good, this is dry. And this is just our base coat, so it's really simple. Okay, I said in the beginning that I wanted to come back to something. I got a comment about a wash. What was it? She was talking about my wash. I think it was my biggest video, which is like how to control the water. It's just not about paint at all, it's just about water. And maybe that's the one where I started with the, no, I think I started with a little flower on the end of that. But anyway, the point is, I got this comment, and this woman said that I have no idea what I'm talking about, no idea what I'm doing, because I didn't do a flat, because I didn't allow the water to bleed, the paint to bleed into the water. Instead, I did a flat wash. And I think that that is kind of important. There are different ways to paint. And I'm sure you guys all know this because you're watching, so you know what, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about because you've seen all my videos, of course. But the way I'm doing it right now, where I'm putting the water down, and then I'm dropping this color in and allowing it to move. This is more of a traditional watercolor in that you're going to get those beautiful lines and the lines, the wiggles, the different textures are going to come out naturally. You're going to get blooms, all kinds of fun things like that. That's not to say that there's something wrong with a flat wash. In fact, when you're doing illustrative work, typically they want to see publications and such want to see flat washes in illustrative work. So they don't want to see all this beautiful texture. Getting a bloom here. And for me, in the world of realism, as beautiful as it is, let's see if I do one right here, to make a circle with water. And let's come back with a nice strong color and just drop it in. Okay, as gorgeous as this is, if I was trying to paint a flat wash, if I was trying to paint an item or a bag, some kind of clothing, just a ball, it doesn't matter, and I wanted a solid color, or a wall or a sky, and I wanted a solid color, this would not work. So while this is very traditional watercolor, and I think that the particular person that made this comment, this is what they thought all watercolor looks like, it's not. There are multiple ways to paint. You can also paint like this. You can end up with these beautiful solid colors where you don't see the colors mixing. That's okay, that's normal. So coming back over here, it's mostly wet on the outside, dry on the inside. Add a little more water to the center. And I'm going to start by adding in some other colors. Might be good if I have my reference here. Yeah, this is not that color at all, but that's all right because it's going to be a good undercolor. So we're going to just work it up. The important thing to remember when working up a piece is to try to let the piece dry as much as you can before you put another layer on. And obviously, the more as I'm talking and working on different areas, this is able to dry. So even though it looks like I'm going really fast and it looks like I'm constantly mixing or I'm constantly working the page, I'm not really, because while I'm working over here, this side's drying, for example, and we're still just trying to get some of these tones down. We could do this as a flat wash, and it would be really simple. And you know what? I'm going to do that for you in just a quick second. But because it's still wet, I want to add in as many of these little lines as I can. My phone turns off so quickly. Okay, I'm going to read the comments in just a few minutes. Once I've got some of this on here, I'll let it dry for a second, and then I can read and respond to some of your questions. Maybe even flip the camera around. Just give me a quick moment here. I put water in here, and the water is kind of sitting on top of the paint, so I gotta mix that up a little bit. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a lot of line work in my paintings. And even though this is way down at the very beginning, I want to almost lock these little lines in here, because they're going to be in the paint, within the different layers. I do a lot of line and dot work, which I'll do a lot more at the very end. There we go. And then let's come back with a little bit of blue. You guys see that? I'm just going around the very edge, like so. So this way there's almost like a blue side and a red side. It's neat to be painting upside down, because when I look at the camera, when I look at the screen, I can see what you see. And it's a totally different thing than what I see, so it gives me this different perspective. Like, it's a nice way to step back and say, okay, that's kind of starting to look like what I want. Because right now it kind of looks like an air balloon to me, because it's upside down. I'm going to add a little more red in here. Yeah, and we're just building up these layers. Now, the whole fig is built like this, in these stripes, right? Kind of like an onion. Is it like an onion? Like an orange. So I'm gonna paint in the direction of form. That's the first thing, because form is going to help with that perspective. It's going to give it that feeling of shape. I don't want to do this so much that it becomes really obvious, and it really does end up looking like a balloon, little basket on the bottom. But as I add more layers, these layers are going to be buried, and certain parts are going to pop up, so it'll take on more. It'll take the shape as we go. So I'm going to let that dry for a sec, and you can see this is still not quite dry. It's very pretty. And down here we have a little pool. Now that pool will create a run back. So what you can do, you probably already know this, but what you can do is tap your brush in there. Did you guys see that? It just sucked the paint right out. So do it one more time when it pulls that paint out, and then there's the paint. I'm just gonna tap it off and come back just lightly with the end of my brush. I don't want to remove too much. Just want to remove some of the water. Okay, and that way I haven't changed the effect, but, I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. I haven't changed the effect here, but I have taken out that water, so I won't have a big run back, a big bloom, the blooming edge. And if you're not sure what bloom is, there's a whole bunch of tutorials on my channel about blooming. You can go to the top right side of my channel. There's a little section that says search, and just type in bloom or whatever you're looking for, and then it will bring up the videos that are related to that topic. So the next thing I wanted to show you while we wait for this to dry is, what if we were going to do a fig as a solid piece. So let's just draw that out. And again, I'm kind of drawing it upside down. And then I'm going to add a little water. I really don't need to, but just to make it flow a little easier, because it will cut down on the amount of time it takes to do this. And let's grab some more alizarin crimson. Holding the brush pretty close to the bottom, so you're really steady and you have full control. And then moving up and down turning the page. Make sure you guys can see. Okay, I'm running out a little bit of paint there. Added some extra paint. Again, turning the page. Now the water in the middle just makes it flow a little better. But what's most important right now is that I get that edge perfect, which is why I keep turning the page. Okay, and that's the last little bit. Very hard to focus and talk when I'm doing a perfectly straight line. Now I come along with the rest of this and maybe add a little more just to deepen that color. But because it's all wet, it's going to blend. This really looks like a balloon. Excuse me, sorry. A little more red. So we're on our second layer, but it's still wet. Okay, and you could potentially keep doing this over and over and over. This would be a very flat fig, right? We're not adding shadow, we're not adding detail, we're not adding a highlight. But it's doable. There we go, a little red fig. So, if we come in here and grab another color for the top. And I should really consult my book because I'm not sure if this is going to be brown or not. But let's add, that's a little too light, let's add some more color. Okay. All right, so that's like the perfect, super simple, completely flat fig. It's not what I'm going for here. And the reason why I'm taking a moment to paint this, there's a few reasons, I guess. One is to show you the different techniques, how we would paint them and build them up, but also that this would be very illustrative. This could also be illustrative, but this is really common. You see this a lot, this very flat. And flat is beautiful. It has its own uses. I think it's great. I just wanted to show that there are multiple ways of doing this. So now I could come back and I could either lift an area, and let's try that for a second. If we use the eradicator, for example, and we wanted to lift a highlight, maybe it's upside down. So for me, the highlight should probably be at the top. Find somewhere that's slightly wet. I don't know how well the paper is going to stand up to this, but let's see. Okay, in order to create some kind of highlight, and there's probably a highlight way down at the very bottom, and probably another one way up here at the edge, like a straight little line. And maybe one down here, just to create a little more form. For example. Now you can also come back with paper towel and just blot that out. This is mostly wet, so we're going to lift a little more paint when we do that. So this is another way we could work here, and then we could keep adding onto that. So I want to come back to this one in the center because I think that one's looking really cute. And we've given it a few moments to dry. So where should we go from here? We need a lot more paint on here. Let me get out our reference. It's not really that color, is it? It's more like this color. Okay, so let's add more color to the top. And we're going to do like a wash, okay, like a glaze, because there's already color underneath, so we're just glazing on top, like so. And you can see how the undercolors are staying, and if anything, they're becoming more rich because we're layering on top of them. And then here, if there's anything that's white, I'd like to leave it white as I can. But at the moment, I don't see much that is white. Try to keep that reference open. Okay, so I think, yeah, using the side of the brush, just doing a little dry brushing right in the middle. That way I could leave a highlight here. And I don't know, should we have a highlight over here? You guys can tell me. Okay, I'm going to let this dry. And I'm going to read your comments, because there's a little conversation going on, which I'm missing. I need someone to read the comments for me. Before I do that, I want to bring in a few little lines from the colors on both sides. Just kind of close it up. I don't want this to look like a little monster with teeth, though. I want it to look like the natural fibers or texture. There we go. Okay, so we're going to let that dry for a sec. This is not white. That's a highlight, but only because it's wet. And up here, add some of that. And we're going to make this purple for now. And later it will turn green, I think, right? So, there we go. Okay, so comments. Daniel Smith tells us on their website. I don't use a lot of Daniel Smith. I just recently bought the Daniel Smith granulating granulating spray, which I have a tutorial. I think that came out already. I did a little tutorial on it and figured out how it looked and whatnot. But I don't typically use their paints, so I'm really not familiar. But that is cool. There is a place in Ottawa that sells Daniel Smith, which I just found. So Pam, I'm going to have to go and check that out and see if I can pick up their cerulean blue. Oh, and you haven't tried it yet either. Well, there we go. But that's cool. We'll see how it goes. In fact, maybe I can do like not a tutorial, a technique video where I compare the two. Yes, Heather, you said you have to go. Meraki, is that how I say that? Meraki? I haven't seen your work. I'm gonna have to check it out. And yes, okay, so that was the whole conversation, right? There's different ways to paint, for sure. Definitely gonna have to look at your work. It sounds really interesting. Is that because your work is realistic, that people aren't like realism, so they think it looks more like a photo, not like a painting? Or is that because your work is like, full-bodied, or what's the deal with that? Tell me why people are confused, or why they're shocked when you tell them that it's watercolor. I'm always interested. Watercolor does a lot of really amazing things that I think a lot of people are confused when they see watercolor, because in the books anyway, it's always referred to as like this old style that's very floral and very dainty and very pretty and all this stuff. Really, watercolor was one of the first types of paints. It was one of the first mediums, not types of paints, mediums, going way back, right? So a lot of the great painters, the masters, used watercolor. Or what is the one that's used with egg? I can't remember at the moment. Where you mix egg with pigment. Someone's gonna tell me, right? And there's also encaustic. Encaustic painting is another thing that I'm very interested in. I haven't started much of it, but now that I have so many beehives, I will be doing a lot more caustic painting in the future, because you require a ton of honey to do it. Not honey, wax. It requires wax, and it's really hard to think and paint, especially about two different topics. Wax and pigment. You mix the wax and the pigment together, and then you heat it up, and you paint with this mix of pigment and wax. It's incredible. I really, really like it. So, hi Nick and Tina. Nick and Tina Colors. Do you guys have a channel? I think it's awesome that you guys are here, and I'm gonna go check out your channels if you do have one. So feel free to let me know what your channel names are and stuff, because I like that we can kind of come together as a community and get to know people. Not that you're just here to chat with me, but that you're also here to chat with each other. So by all means, if you want to shout out, just let me know, because I'm all for that. I think it's good for our community. So I'm putting on another layer using the same two colors, and we're going to build this and build this and build this. I have no idea how far it's going to go or how it's going to look. I can tell you this little red one is kind of cute. It's like a little heart. It's a little poofy in the middle, but I could iron the page or put it between a book. I don't typically tape my stuff down because it's just too much work, and I tend not to use that much water. Last week we did the tutorial where we did echinacea, which really, it was beautiful. It took a long time to do. I was quite surprised. I didn't think it was going to take that long. But it just never felt finished until I finally got to the end, and then all of a sudden it was just done. So, that's how my work tends to go. Yeah, and it was really, really thick and amazing and full-bodied by the time we were finished with it. Is that what I was talking about? Did I just change topics in the middle of my sentence there? All right. Now, can you guys tell I just left this little piece, this little pink? This one is kind of roundish, so I'm going to come in the middle. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little cold. Yeah, I want to just come in the middle of that and maybe straighten that line out a tiny bit. And then I'm going to come back with another color. Maybe I'll mix two of these into a nice purple. Oh, sorry, I'm doing that off camera. Yeah, so where are you? There. So I'm lifting the alizarin crimson and adding in some blue, which is already there, and that's what I'm mixing. You can't see that. Yes, you can. Here. There. Oh my goodness. This is not the camera I normally use, so, and the paper's too big. So these colors, this one and this one, in this little well is mixing to make this. So this way I have a whole bunch and I can come back and keep working with it without having to mix it more. So this line in the center, that's going to be the highlight. And you can already kind of tell as I'm building it up. We're coming in here, layering these colors on, and almost like feathering them towards the center. And pick up some more red. Okay, and now, can you guys tell these lines are pretty chunky? So I want to pull through them. This is probably where it's going to get a little slower. So if you're watching this after the fact, just click fast forward. Otherwise, you might want to come back in an hour or so when I'm done with some of my lines. So before you guys leave though, because I know I'm going to get really slow here and I probably will lose a lot of you, I will put the final image on Patreon, but I'll also put it on Instagram. So if you want to know what it looks like. If you're following me on Instagram, if you're not following me on Instagram, my Instagram is at Scarlett Damen, ScarlettDamen. So super simple. And I will also get around to making a template for this, maybe a whole series of them, and putting them on Etsy. So if you're not sure if you want to do this kind of painting, but you want to have the template already, you can go to Etsy. There you can download the template and then follow along that way. I should probably say that at the beginning. Okay, so I'm working from the outside in, as you guys can tell, and also from the top. So we're going to leave that center. And can you see how it's becoming more and more deep? There's depth. I mean, if this wasn't a fig, if this was just like a little window, I don't know if I can do that without, let's see if I can do that without, hold up. Okay. So if this, imagine this not as a fig, but as a window into a little world. You see how you can see depth, right? You can see that something's happening far off in the distance, and we're building the foreground darker and thicker with more detail. and then, I'm not sure if I'm holding this right, so and then way off in the distance, in the center, it goes back, right? There's like this endless eternity. At least from what I can see that. Maybe if I zoom in, see if I can zoom in for you guys, because it is looking really good. Bear with me one quick second. I think this is kind of important. Okay. So now it's going to get complicated because I want to rotate it a little bit, but I want to keep it in your shot. Yeah, so now these lines are too thick for me. These ones are okay, and I'm going to build them up as we go, but these other ones are too thick. So I'm just using, this entire piece is done with this brush. This is the Rosemary & Co. size 8. I love triangle brushes. I just love them. But I'm going to come back with a size 0, so Da Vinci size 0. And if you want to know, it's from the, I don't have a series on it actually. I can't tell you, sorry. I do have a series 10 here. I could use that. Then you'll know exactly which brush I'm using. This is 1010 series 10. This is from the Maestro line, also from Da Vinci. So let's line that up perfectly. And then with this brush, have you guys seen my mastering detail tutorial where I talk about making the finest of lines and practicing those lines? So I'm trying to bring some of these bumps up. It's almost like a little forest in here. It's interesting, it smells really good in here. It smells like somebody made blueberry muffins or something. But nobody's home. I'm pretty sure nobody's making blueberry muffins. Thanks, Jill. Tempera. Yes, yes. Tempera is the one with the egg. Yes, 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 yes. It's a pretty neat thing. I did it once as a teenager, and our family dog ate my painting. And that was exciting. And I thought, maybe I won't do this again. It was for a school assignment. I believe I finished it and handed it in, and everything was done. And then the dog ate the piece, or at least like tore it apart and licked all the tempera or all the egg yolk off. But it was really cool to do. It's cool because you have eggs, right? Eggs are somewhat easily accessible, but pigment is the problem. So now I have tons of pigment because I make my own paints. I still haven't talked about that or done a tutorial about it or anything. I should really maybe do a live video. That'd be kind of cool, where I'm putting together the paints. It would be a long video though, or a long workshop. But because I do that, I have access now to pigment, so tempera could be something interesting to do. Except that I like to eat the eggs that my chickens lay, and I would prefer to use beeswax because I have all of that too. So I'm just going back and forth with these itty bitty lines. I'm trying really hard not to cough, which is not really working. So I'm going to try to do them a little quicker because I'm just kind of going up and down. I'm using my finger as a guide so I don't go too close. I hope that my head is on your shot. So that scratching you're hearing, that is my fingernail. And it's really important because it's going to keep the brush at exactly the right distance. Bring some more lines down here. And it looks easy, it's not. This is a lot of practice. So if you guys try to do it and use your finger to guide you and it doesn't work, don't give up. Keep trying. What is the advantage of making your own paints? Harvey, good question. Well, I guess I get to mix the pigments to make my own paints, to make different colors that I couldn't necessarily buy. It's no, well, I wouldn't say it's cheaper. No, it's probably not cheaper at all. I expect it's probably much more expensive. One of the things would be that I can make them with honey, and I get away from certain things like preservatives or oxgall or animal ingredients that I don't want in the paints. That would be one thing. But I think the main thing, because you can buy paints that are vegan, and that's totally an option too. I think the main thing is the variety. I think right now I have maybe 100 different pigments. I don't know, more, less, I'm not sure. I had a whole bunch, and then I went crazy and bought boxes of them. Had my mother-in-law mail them, asked my mother-in-law if she would be kind enough to mail them to me, because she sent them to me from Germany. And yeah, so I can mix them, right? Because a pigment is not normally just one color. It's normally made up of a few colors. And I don't have any pigment tubes, so I can't show you this at the moment. But if you turn it over, you'll see a bunch of numbers on the back. So PR would be brown, or sorry, PBR is brown pigment, or P. B would be blue, PY is pigment yellow, and then there's some numbers. So sometimes it'll say PY and a number, and then it'll say PB and another number, which means that there's two different colors in there. And sometimes they'll have multiple colors, so you have 3 or 4 or 5. And the cheaper paints are going to have more filler, less color. And they're also going to have more different varieties of color, so it's not as pure. So I can make my paints as thick as I want by adding as much pigment as I feel like I need and as little filler as possible, so that I get really, really thick and rich colors. And in price, because I'm making very little, I'm just making for myself, so I can make a very, very tiny amount. Now, I have pigments. When I buy my pigments, they're probably, this is salt, but that much pigment would maybe grow by 5% or 5 times that maybe, because you're adding a lot of mix to it. Maybe less, maybe 3 or 4 times. So that would make a lot of pigment. That would make probably one of these pans. I'm zoomed in. You guys can't see me. I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, so in terms of volume, you're able to get more paint with very little pigment. And when you're buying the pigment doesn't necessarily cost a ton, but because you're not making a ton of paint, you need less pigment. You'd only need a little bit, and then you can only make 1 or 2 colors, just a small amount for yourself. And for me, that works really well. Also, so coming back with this purple, and we're working across the top, and it's good to come back and check our references. I'm not expecting anything to look like that one, actually. I'm not expecting it to look exactly the same. I'm not even expecting it to look close, but I do want to somewhat be in the ballpark color-wise, so I'm going to take some of this and some more of that. Alizarin crimson, some of our purple we've already made, and some alizarin crimson. And I'm going to add more here. Okay, instead of doing it all itty bitty line at a time. Those lines are still there, and I'm not lifting them because this is a really soft brush, but I want to add more of that color on top. Try to leave some of these lighter bits in here still somewhat exposed. Not that I paint over with a dark color and all that. Those bits in here that were light would become completely dark because then they get hidden, but you can see, I hope you can see, there we go, there's a little bit of highlight going on. So let's add more red. Going all the way up. Beat bop. Yeah, I'm back. I hope my my pigment explanation was sufficient. I'm not very good at explaining things while I'm painting if it's not exactly about what I'm painting. So it requires thought. And at current, my thought is being used up here. So, sorry about that. But yeah, I can think about it and come back and give you a better answer at some point. Why, this is to Harvey in case you're wondering, why one would want to make their own pigments. I think the biggest thing is the range of colors and being able to mix colors the way you want. And it's really romantic. It's really a very relaxing, beautiful thing to do. I really, really enjoy it. I have a glass surface and a glass mill that I use, so the tools are really like tactile. They're beautiful in your hand. The motion is really nice. There's not much dust because you're using very, very little amount, very small amount, and you're mixing it forever, and it's just an amazing thing. Very ASMR, if you know what that is. Where the motion and the texture and the sound of all that, it's just really cool. So that's a horrible explanation, isn't it? Okay, anyway, moving on. So down here, we're going to add more blue. I want to make that bottom. Try to keep this in here for you guys. I want to make the bottom a little more heavy and straight, which is kind of hard because you can't see what I'm doing. There we go. And then using the side of the brush, I'm going to come up here. Oops. Now if you go out like that, you can either incorporate it into the whole piece, which I don't really like doing, but that's pretty simple. Or you could use the eradicator and take it out, which is also not the best option. If you have a hard time making a straight line and you don't want to use eradicator because your paper is not the best paper, you could use masking fluid. The masking fluid would be great just to go all the way around the edge. Do one big fat bead all the way around the edge, and then as you're painting, you'll hit the bead, you'll bump up against the bead, and you'll stop, right? The paint won't go past that. When you're all done painting, then you remove that bead and you'll have a perfectly straight edge. The edge will be sharp and possibly a little bumpy, so I would practice that a few times before you spend hours and hours and hours on a piece, and then you take out the edge and decide you don't like the texture, because you may still have to clean it up after. But it's a good thought. It's a good option. So I'm going to smooth some of these. Not really smooth, more like blend a little bit. And maybe make this highlight a little smaller. Okay, and then we're going to be back to doing a few more lines. I also want to make sure I don't have a pool over here. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this live tutorial today. My husband and I, we stayed up last night. We binge watched Miss Maisel. Have you guys seen Miss Maisel? I'm not sure, it's called something else. The Amazing Miss Maisel. She's a young woman from the 50s who has 2 children, and she's married, and her husband ends up leaving her, and then somehow she kind of falls into the comedic scene, and she becomes a comedian. It is hilarious. It's on Amazon. It's on Prime. It's a Prime original, and yeah, it's so funny. They just released the 2nd season, and I went home last night. We had a very busy day yesterday. We went home, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep. Good night. And then he said, hey, do you want to watch Miss Maisel? They came out the 2nd season. I was like, never mind. I'm not going to sleep. So we stayed up until 6 this morning, and we went to bed really early because we were so beat from the day. We'd spent the whole day in Ottawa yesterday driving around doing 100 other things. So it was an exhausting day, but then the moment that show turned on, it was wonderful. We watched the whole thing, and we're still not done, which is great. So I imagine we're going to end up binge watching it tonight too. Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you guys seen that? Are there any shows that you watch that you are absolutely taken with? I really like it because of the time period. Okay, so I'm just reading the comments. Hello, Marcy. Nice that you're here. Hour and a half late, silly lady. Just joking. It's always good to see you. Yeah, Katie, headphones will help. I am very quiet, but I'm really close to the mic, and it's interesting to me that some people have no problem hearing me, and other people, I'm just way too quiet. If I listen on my phone, I'm really loud. When I paint, when I get into it, though, I'm going to get more and more quiet, and my speech, I'm going to get slower in, you can see as it's happening right now. The words are moving further apart because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. So that's definitely a thing, and I apologize for that. There's not much I can do about it because I'm trying to talk while I paint. But headphones will help. If you have any headphones or earbuds or anything like that, it'll make a huge difference. Then you'll hear everything. And then I'll have to apologize if I do cough, which I think I'll have to do soon. Trying very hard not to cough. It's really not. It's not easy. So we're putting more blue here. I want to make this corner thicker, and I don't want to lose too much of this stuff underneath. And I think actually the best thing will be to move the paper around. Maybe not that much. Okay, move the paper so I can get in here, and I want to use the side of the brush. And again, just lift that up. And I'm going to come back in here and kind of blend some of this out so that sharp edge doesn't matter. And I'll also bring it up here on the side. Bring it down a little bit more. Okay, it's starting to look better. It's starting to look deep. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. At this point, letting it dry would probably help. Outlander. Oh my. Yeah, Outlander. That hands down, that show is incredible. It does amazing things for my relationship. I actually watched like half of the last season, or the second last season, I think, while my husband was in Europe. And yeah, I missed him a lot. Don't recommend watching Outlander by yourself. It's really a kind of a couples thing. At least for me, I found it quite depressing to be alone and watching such an incredibly romantic movie. It's just so good. And then there's the Vikings. I haven't seen that one yet. Everybody talks about it, and I haven't been able to find it. It's really hard to find here. It's not on Amazon. It's not on Netflix. It's not on Crave. Those are the only three we have, I think. And I think it's on the HBO or what's the other one? The History Channel. I think Vikings is the History Channel, right? Has anyone watched that one? One of the neat things about watching shows is they're full of inspiration. Like, you're able to see places. Sorry. You're able to see places that we just can't go there every day. We're not going to go walk around Iceland or Ireland. But to be able to watch this show that just takes you away to this incredible place and then come back and paint it or be inspired to paint like the mountains and the luscious areas and the fairies and the creatures. And even though in the shows we're talking about they don't have fairies and such things like that, I still think that watching some of these movies is just so inspiring. Gets the creative juices flowing. So I'm relayering in the lines, and I'm back to a larger brush. Did you notice? The small brush, I like it. It's great for itty bitty bitty lines, but I can do a better job with a bigger brush because I can do more of it. So I'm not constantly moving from my page to the paint. And I'm not doing this as much. I'm able to just concentrate and paint. And we're getting really close to being done. Now, I don't know how close that actually is, but we're definitely getting closer because I can see that this is starting to feel like something I would want to pick up and almost eat. Not quite, but it's getting there. So if you missed it at the beginning, the colors I'm using are alizarin crimson and phthalo turquoise. Someone has said they really like the colors. Mercy. Yes, that's what these are. And the whole piece is just those colors. I haven't added anything else. I haven't added any Davies Gray or anything like that. I'm just using them in different amounts. Making some fine lines. I want to get these really tiny, but because of the angle I can't use my hand because I'll end up drawing across I'll end up rubbing my hand across the page. So instead I'm trying to use my wrist, not just my fingers. And for me that's a big deal. My arm, you may have noticed as you're watching, my arm does a lot of moving. Now this is a small piece, so there's not so much, but if I was doing long lines, okay, I would be bringing my whole hand across instead of just doing tiny finger movements. But now I'm thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to come back with a little bit of water and maybe soften some of that. Just want to blend a little bit. History.ca allows you to stream Vikings? I had no idea. Oh, awesome. That's a great tip. You mean online, right? I'd have to go use it like on my computer. Not on the big TV, but who cares? That's sweet. Cool. Maybe I won't sleep tomorrow night either. Start a new show. don't normally watch a lot of TV. I tend to watch a ton of YouTube though. In fact, most of this week I've been watching YouTube all about how to do live stuff, how to figure out how to make the software work with the different cameras I'm using so that I can switch back and forth between the cameras. So I know I'm not doing it, I'm just using this camera that you guys are seeing, but I do have it. Hey, hold on. It says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Viewers will experience buffering. Can you guys see fine? Online. Oh, you're talking about Vikings. Yeah, it looks good to me. Oh, now it says the streaming is okay again. That's very interesting. Okay, what was I talking about? I don't remember. Maybe it'll come back. Sorry, that was a real squirrel moment. Okay, we're gonna... Yeah, totally gone. Just feel free to tell me what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about the comments. Not a lot of comments. So I'm gonna keep going here. And at some point I need to turn this around. This is very wet, so the lines I'm putting down right here are just bleeding right out. Which isn't really what I'm going for. Yeah, I think I was talking software. Right. Oh, what I was watching. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, okay, yes. I was talking about software. I spent the entire week watching YouTube videos on how to get this software to work. Thank you, Marcy. You're so helpful. And I've also been spending a lot of time trying to learn how to use Procreate, which is a, if you guys aren't familiar, here we go, we're going to turn it around now. Procreate is a program on my iPad, on an iPad Pro, that you use. I'm not going to take that little dot out. Do you see that itty bitty dot? I'm going to leave it, and later when I'm all done, I think I will just lift it off. Kind of looks like it's really sitting on the surface. I'm also not sure about the shape of this. Now that I'm looking at it straight on, I feel like it's a little lopsided. What do you think? But you know what? It's too late. So that's the way it is. Procreate. Procreate is a really neat software. It's kind of like Photoshop, but it's for the iPad. You use you could use it on any tablet, I guess, but in the case of the iPad, you use the iPad Pen. And if you guys are watching other YouTubers paint and stuff, you've probably seen their digital work. So I've done digital work. I've done lots of digital work, but I've never gotten into doing it on a tablet. And I feel like I'm getting old and the world is passing me by. So I've been spending the most of the week, when I'm not trying to figure out the live streaming stuff, which obviously work demand, I've been trying to learn how to use this new program. So maybe somewhere in my future, I'll have a tutorial or at least like a clip, where I paint something on there. I do use it to do sketching, but these really beautiful, detailed digital artworks, art pieces, it's just all over my head. I'm still traditional. Can't wrap my head around it, but I'm getting there. Like 10 hours of workshops later, starting to make sense. Okay, so what do you think? Do we need more color? You know, maybe I will make it bigger. Do it really carefully. Because I do feel like it's a little squashed, like the fig was lying on that side. There's some hair on here. Mm-hmm. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Looks perfect. Thank you. So I could have put a little highlight in here. This is where having the fruit in hand would be perfect. Because if I had the fruit in hand, I would have taken a whole bunch of photos and I would have been able to see it and say, okay, so in real life, there's a highlight here, or there's a highlight here, or there's something else down there. And then I would really work it in. Using an image, and really just for colors, it's not enough. I mean, it's a fake, it's pretty obvious. It's like a tear shape, and it's purple. But it does make a big difference if you have the subject in front of you. So I'm going to do a little house cleaning here. I'm just going to go slowly. And that means I won't talk for a second. My color. Here's my color. Okay. So I haven't had to make new color yet, which is also cool. This part is still a little patchy. You can see, well, you guys, looks really beautiful from where you're seeing it. From where I'm seeing it, it looks a little dead. So I'm gonna just add a little more. And these are just short little strokes, no more long ones. And then from the side, I like brushing, I like painting using the side of the brush. It gives a really beautiful mark. Okay, I'm not trying to make that solid. It's really hard to see because it's very, very dark. But see if we can. Oh, oops. Sorry, guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to make that solid. I'm trying to. There's a little patchiness in there, but that's okay. That's what I want. So it's not too much of one color. But I do want the bottom layer, bottom edge to be the same color as what's in the center, or what's down here. There's a lot of paint down here. This is very tedious, isn't it? All right, let's turn it all the way around. Ah! Oh no. Okay, I will get that out with Radicator. later. Let me try. I think I did that with my arm. Yeah, I think things tend to be lopsided because they're sitting. When they're in the box, they kind of sit on one side. I think when you get them off the tree, they're really nice and straight. I've seen them on trees, and they're beautiful. I've actually grown fig trees. But you put them in a box for too long, and they get pretty squashed. Okay, so now I'm really looking at the monitor more than I'm looking at the painting, because that's showing me, it gives me a different perspective. I think, no, let's check the reference. Okay, we could come back. We're not really going for that so much anymore. We could come back with some gray or some dots. That would help, wouldn't it? Where is the gray? Gray's in here. We have some Davies gray in here. We also have some neutral gray on that little palette over there. So let me pick this color up. Okay, and this is where using a thickener would be really good, which is something I haven't done a video on. I have thickeners for watercolor, and I would like to do a tutorial on how to use them, because that would be the perfect moment to make this thicker so it sticks better and it doesn't just disappear when I put it on the piece. It'll also help if the little fig is dry. I'm trying to get more paint than water, like a really thick, milky, almost buttery kind of consistency here. And then just tap it on the edge. Okay, so there's that color, and there's also, where did I say? Oh, there it is. Neutral tint, which is this one. It's between alizarin crimson and Indian red. Just cleaning my brush. Yeah, see that one? That one's much darker. Once it's diluted, it's going to look like this. But for now, it's really, really dark. So it's just going to add to the dark overall of the fig. And I think that that color will take away some of the beauty in the different shades in the center here. So we're not going to use that one. But, and I don't have a white anymore. I tend not to use whites. Let's use a small brush so I don't have to worry about picking it up again. And let's turn that little reference on. So they have dots. I don't have a gel pen. A gel pen would also work. But I'd have to finish this at home. Can you guys see those at all? That's really hard to. Really hard to see. I think the dots are helpful though because they're going to break up this surface. It's a very smooth surface, so we want something random. Oh, but you can see that one. That's too big. That's all right. Some super tiny dots. And I apologize if this is crazy tedious. I know it's really hard to see, but it's kind of important. Let's get that reference out again. Okay, so the tops of the figs are green. I think I said that before, that they were going to turn green. I'm going to add a tiny bit of dusting. Okay. And ideally, if I mix some kind of white in here, it would be even better. But I think that looks like a dusty kind of color. It's okay. I don't want to go too far up because I want to still do something about the green. I'm not going to work all the way up the stem yet. And I'm trying to put this in patchy. It'd be great if my thing didn't turn off all the time. In like patches and streaks so that it looks textured. The only thing that is important is that I go right along that edge. Right? I don't want to have the paint go up to the edge but not touch the edge, otherwise it will look like I painted it on top. And this way it should look like it's complete. This gray dusty powder is everywhere on the top. So like I said, I'm going to put the final image onto Instagram, Instagram/Scarlett Damen. So if you guys want to check it out there, you can. I'm going to add a few lines in here. like so. Yeah, that's working. I'm totally running out of color here. Okay. I like that a lot. Now we have this beautiful green. That looks like a May green. Let's see if I can. That green. May green is in this palette. It's like a beautiful summer color. Right here. Okay, and then now I'm just adding this green on top, and it's really hard to see. Yeah. And just like the rest of it, I want to add edge to edge. Not that it looks like I painted it on top, but that it is part of it. And I'm going to bring it a little higher. So while it comes down here and turns purple, way up here it'll be on pure paper. It'll actually turn green, or look true. And then here, this is more of a stipple effect. I'm just kind of rubbing it around. I'm moving the brush, and in the process, it's lifting the colors underneath, which is good. I think I might need some more purple. There's a tiny little dot here. Sorry, that was probably too quiet. Yeah, there's a tiny little dot right here that should be part of it. So I'm going to bring that in. And there's also one over here. There we go. So you see how that's turning green. Okay, I'm just putting in those few itty bitty bitty lines in there too. And I need to let this part dry. Now, another thing I can do is find some paper towel. Let's see, paper towel. And come back with this itty bitty 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 eradicator, which is probably way too hard. And we're going to lift just a little bit. You want to make sure that you're using a clean piece of paper towel, and that way go off a tiny bit. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. Just an itty bitty 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 bit of that color came off, so that when I come back with a fresh green, I've got a little more paper to work with. It's not so dark. So I want to make sure there are no water drops on my brush. Way up here in the ferrule where that might run down. So I have a water drop. Don't know if you guys could see it or not, but I did have one. I wanted to make sure I got rid of that because it would randomly drop any old time, and when it does, it will really mess things up. I mean, it's pretty tiny, but still. Okay, now we're anchoring our little stem to the fig. It's by adding an itty bitty 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 bit of green. Yeah. Okay, so last thing, I think, I'll turn it around. Get these water containers out of the way. So here's our fig. I will have to wait until it's completely dry, and then I will take this little bit of pencil out. But in the meantime, I'm going to lift this. And it would help if my eradicator was actually clean. Now, this is just a practice piece. Like we've made quite a mess of the page everywhere else, so I'm not super concerned. But I could take this piece and I could definitely photograph it and then turn it into a digital piece. So I could, in the process of photographing, in order to make prints, I would leave the rest out. So you just have this lovely piece here. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn it around so you guys can see it. I think it's pretty good. So So thanks for watching. This was a lot of fun. It was 2 hours from beginning to end without any editing at all. So that gives you an idea of how fast or how slow I can actually paint. This is a very small piece. It's bigger than a normal fig, right? So it's about 3 maybe by 2, like this, like a nice orange kind of size. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys learned something. I hope this wasn't too much of me chatting and talking and going on and rambling. I know I did a lot of rambling, but I do hope that you really enjoyed it and that you found something interesting and you like this. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you like these live videos. Really what would be more cool is just tell me in the comments or in the chats that you like the live tutorials and live videos. I know most of you are going to be seeing this as after the fact. And to everybody who's watching right now and who's still with me, I'm so impressed. You guys have stuck with me for 2 solid hours. That's awesome. I'm Scarlett and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Toodaloo! So now I need to click that button, stop streaming. Yes, I will drive safe. Bye guys.